The battle lasted through the night. Tahoe moved through the ship like a force of nature. The robot soldiers followed him, watching in amazement as he cleared corridor after corridor of alien invaders. He did not rest. He did not slow down. Every time his body wanted to stop, he thought about the children in the safe room and kept moving. The Varath learned to fear him. Their warriors began to run when they saw him coming. They screamed warnings to each other in their clicking language. The human, the ghost, run, hide, do not fight him. But there was nowhere to run on a ship that by morning, the last alien was dead. The ship was quiet, except for the sound of wounded people crying and machines repairing damage. Blue blood covered the floors of every level. The smell of death filled the air. Tahoe stood in the cargo bay where the final battle had taken place. His body was broken. He had been shot twice, once in the shoulder, once in the leg. His ribs were cracked. His hands were burned from grabbing hot weapons. He could barely stand, but he was alive. And so were the 3,000 people on the ship. Yuna found him there. She ran to his side and began treating his wounds immediately. Her hands were shaking, but her training kept her focused. "You need to get to the medical bay," she said. "These wounds are serious. You could die." Tahoe smiled weakly. "I have had worse. That's not reassuring." Behind Yuna, the robot soldiers gathered. All 50 of them were damaged, dented, scratched, missing pieces, but all 50 had survived. They stood in a line, their red eyes fixed on Tahoe. Kappa stepped forward. The robot commander's voice was different now, quiet, respectful. "Chef, Tahoe Park," Kappa said. I owe you an apology." Tahoe blinked in surprise. "Machines apologize?" "We are learning." Kappa lowered its massive head. "We mocked you. We called you weak and useless. We thought you were nothing. We were wrong." "You were not wrong," Tahoe said. "I am weak. I am old. I am a cook who wanted to spend his days making soup. But you are also the greatest warrior we have ever seen," Kappa said. "You saved this ship. You saved all these lives. You did what 50 military robots could not do alone." The other robots nodded their heads. Even Unit 7, who had been the cruelest of all, lowered its eyes in shame. "I am sorry," Unit 7 said. "For everything I said. For everything I did. You are not a grease monkey. You are a hero." Tahoe was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a small, tired laugh, but it was real. "I am not a hero," he said. "Heroes fight because they want to. I fought because I had to. There's a difference. The result is the same," Kappa said. "Lives were saved. Yes." Tahoe's face became sad. "But lives were also lost. I counted the bodies. 73 humans died tonight. 73 people I could not save. You cannot save everyone. I know. But that does not stop the pain." Yuna finished bandaging his wounds. She helped him stand up, letting him lean on her shoulder. "You need to rest," she said firmly. "Doctor's orders." Tahoe shook his head. "First, I need to check on my staff. Mina and Junho. They were in the safe room with the children. They are fine. I already checked. Everyone in the safe room survived." Relief washed over Tahoe's face. "Good. That is good." Captain Yumbi arrived with a group of officers. She looked tired but alive. There was a new respect in her eyes when she looked at Tahoe. "Chef," she said, "I do not know how to thank you. You saved us all." "You can thank me by letting me return to my kitchen," Tahoe said. "I have missed 3 meals. People must be hungry." Yumbi laughed. "After everything that happened, you want to cook?" "It is what I do. It is what I am." The captain smiled and nodded. Very well. But first, I need to know something. Will you stay with us? As a soldier, I mean. We could use someone like you. Taiho's face became serious. He looked at the captain for a long time. No, he said finally. I made a promise to my wife. A promise to stop killing. I broke that promise tonight to protect this ship. But I will not break it again. The war is not over. The Varth will send more ships. Then, the robot soldiers will protect us. They are good warriors. They learned well tonight. He looked at Kappa. Did you not? Kappa nodded slowly. We learned that true strength is not about being powerful. It is about choosing when to use power. You taught us that, Chef. Good. Taiho smiled his gentle smile. Then my work as a teacher is done. Now please, let me go back to my kitchen. The pots are probably burned black by now. 3 hours later, the mess hall was open again. Taiho stood at his stove, stirring a large pot of soup. His wounds were bandaged, and he moved slowly, but he was back in his white apron. The smell of cooking food filled the air, covering the smell of death. People came to eat. Survivors of the battle, their faces still pale with shock. They sat at the tables and ate Taiho's soup in silence. It was the best soup they had ever tasted. It tasted like life. It tasted like Hope. Mina worked beside Taiho, making fresh bread. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands were steady. Chef, she said quietly. I'm sorry, I doubted you. I'm sorry, I thought you were just a cook? Taiho smiled. I am just a cook, Mina. That is what I choose to be. What I was before does not matter. What matters is what I am now. But you saved everyone. You're a hero. Taiho shook his head. Heroes are in stories. I am just a man who wanted to protect the people I care about. That is not heroic. That is just human. The robot soldiers came to get their fuel. This time, they did not mock or laugh. They stood in a respectful line and waited their turn. When Unit 7 reached the front, it stopped and looked at Taiho. Chef, the robot said. May I ask you something? Of course. Why did you let us mock you all those years? You could have stopped us at any time. You could have shown us your true strength. Taiho filled the robot's fuel container carefully. Because showing strength is easy. Showing restraint is hard. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be peaceful. That I could let others hurt me without hurting them back. But we were cruel to you. Yes, and I forgave you. That was my victory. He handed the container to Unit 7. Now go, and try to be kinder to the other humans. They are not as patient as I am. Unit 7 took the fuel. It looked at Taiho for a long moment. Thank you, Chef, it said finally. For everything. You are welcome. Now go. I have work to do. The robots left. The mess hall became quiet. Taiho continued cooking later that night. When everyone was fed and the kitchen was clean, Taiho sat alone in the dark mess hall. He held the photograph of his wife and son in his hands. I broke my promise, Jisoo, he whispered. I killed again. I became the ghost again. He looked at her smiling face. But I think you would understand. You always loved children. You would not have wanted them to die. He touched the photograph gently. I am going back to being a cook now. I am going to make soup and smile and pretend to be harmless. But I will always remember tonight. I will remember that sometimes, to protect the people we love, we must become what we hate. He put the photograph back in his pocket. Wait for me, Jisoo. Wait for me, Do-hung. When my time comes, I will find you. And I will cook you the best meal you have ever had. He smiled and stood up. His body hurt, but his heart was at peace. Tomorrow, he would wake up at 4 in the morning. Tomorrow, he would cook breakfast. Tomorrow, the ship would continue its journey through the stars. And in the kitchen, the humble cook would make soup and smile. Just like always. because that was who he was. Not a warrior. Not a ghost. Not a hero. Just Taeho. Just a cook who loved to make people happy. And that was enough. The hallway was full of smoke and screaming. Bodies lay on the floor. Some were human. Some were alien. The Vareth had cut through the ship's defenses like a knife through paper. The robot soldiers were fighting. Unit 7 led a group of 10 machines against a wave of Vareth warriors. Lasers flew through the air. Metal clashed against armor. The robots were strong, but there were too many enemies. "We are losing," Unit 7 reported to Kappa through the communication system. "The aliens are too numerous. We need to fall back." "Do not fall back," Kappa commanded. "Fight to the last unit. That is our purpose, but we will all die. Then we die with honor. Machines do not fear death." Unit 7 turned back to the battle. 3 more Vareth were charging toward it. The robot raised its weapons, and then something happened. A shadow moved through the hallway. It was fast. Too fast to see clearly. It passed through the group of Vareth like wind through smoke. One by one, the aliens fell. Unit 7 watched in confusion. The Vareth warriors were dropping to the ground. Their heads were separated from their bodies. Their armor was cut open. Blue blood sprayed across the walls. In less than 10 seconds, 15 aliens were dead. The shadow stopped moving. It stood in the middle of the hallway, surrounded by bodies. It was the cook. Taeho held his cooking knife in one hand and an alien weapon in the other. Blue blood covered his clothes. His face was calm. His eyes were empty. Unit 7 could not process what it had just seen. Its computer brain ran calculations again and again, but the result was always impossible. "You," the robot said. "How did you do that?" Taeho did not answer. He looked at the robot for a moment, then turned and walked away. More enemies were waiting in the darkness ahead. Unit 7 followed. The ship's command center was under attack. 20 Vareth warriors had broken through the doors and were killing everyone inside. Captain Yumbi was wounded. She lay on the floor, bleeding from a cut on her arm. Kappa stood in front of her, fighting 3 aliens at once with its 4 arms. "You cannot win, machine," the Vareth leader said. It was larger than the others, with red markings on its armor. "Your ship is ours. Your people are dead. Give up." "Machines do not give up," Kappa said. "We fight until destroyed. Then you will be destroyed." The Vareth leader raised its weapon. The door behind them exploded. Taeho walked through the smoke. He was breathing hard now. His knife was broken. He had only the alien weapon left. Behind him, the hallway was filled with dead aliens. He had killed 30 more on his way here. The Vareth leader turned to look at the human. Its many eyes narrowed. "Another weak creature," it said. "Kill it." 5 warriors charged at Taeho. The cook did not retreat. He walked forward into the attack. What happened next was too fast for most eyes to see. Taeho moved between the aliens like water flowing through rocks. His weapon fired again and again. When it ran out of power, he threw it at one alien's face and took another weapon from a falling body. The 5 warriors died in 4 seconds. The Vareth leader stepped back. For the first time, there was fear in its voice. "What are you?" it demanded. "You are not like other humans. You move like death itself." Taeho stopped. He stood in the middle of the command center, surrounded by bodies. His chest was rising and falling. His hands were covered in blue blood up to the elbows. "I am just a cook," he said. His voice was quiet, tired. "I make food. I wash dishes. I smile at people and tell them to eat well." He raised his weapon. "But before I was a cook, I was something else. I was a soldier. I was a killer. I was the thing that enemies saw in their nightmares." They called me the Ghost of Earth. The Varith leader's eyes widened. I have heard that name, it whispered. The human who ended the wars. The human who killed 1,000 warriors alone. But that was long ago. You are old now. You are weak. Yes, Taiho agreed. I am old. My body is slow. My hands shake. I cannot fight like I used to. He moved. The Varith leader did not see him coming. One moment, the human was 10 meters away. The next moment, he was standing behind the alien. His stolen weapon pressed against its neck. But I can still fight well enough, Taiho said. He pulled the trigger. The Varith leader fell. The remaining aliens screamed in rage and charged. There were still 14 of them. Taiho was tired. His body hurt. He had already killed 50 enemies tonight, and his muscles were burning with exhaustion. But he did not stop. He fought like a man possessed. He fought like a ghost. He dodged and struck and moved and killed. Every movement was perfect. Every attack found its target. The robot soldiers watched from the edges of the room. Unit 7 could not move. Its computer brain had stopped working properly. It was seeing something that should not be possible. A human and old, tired human who worked in a kitchen was defeating an army by himself. Kappa watched too. The robot commander felt something strange in its circuits. Something it had never felt before. Respect. When the last alien fell. Taiho stood alone in the command center. Bodies surrounded him like a carpet of death. Blue blood dripped from his hands and face. His breathing was harsh and ragged. He turned to look at the robots. His eyes found Unit 7. You called me weak, Taiho said. You called me useless. You said I would die screaming. Unit 7 could not speak. Taiho walked toward the robot. His steps were slow now. His body was failing, but his eyes were still strong. I am weak, he said. I am old and tired and broken. I wanted to spend the rest of my life making soup and watching the stars. He stopped in front of Unit 7. The robot was taller than him by 2 feet. Its metal body was scratched and dented from battle. But being weak does not mean being worthless, Taiho said. Being peaceful does not mean being helpless. I chose to put down my weapons. I chose to stop killing. That was strength, not weakness. Unit 7 finally found its voice. How? How is that possible? You are just flesh and blood. We are machines. We are made for war. Taiho smiled. It was not the cold smile of a predator anymore. It was the gentle smile of a cook. You are made for war, he agreed. I was made for peace. But sometimes, to protect peace, we must fight. Sometimes, to protect the weak, we must be strong. He turned away from the robot. There are more aliens on the ship, he said. The other levels. The safe room. The engine room. They must all be cleared. Captain Umbi stood up slowly. Her face was pale, but her eyes were bright. Chef Taiho, she said. Thank you. You saved us all. Taiho shook his head. Not yet. There is still work to do. He walked toward the door. Wait, Kappa said. The robot commander's voice was different now. Softer, almost humble. Let us help you. Let us fight beside you. Taiho stopped. He looked back at the robots. These machines that had mocked him for years. These cold metal warriors who had called him useless. Can you keep up? He asked. Kappa straightened its massive body. We will try. Taiho nodded once. Then the Ghost of Earth walked out of the command center. And for the first time ever, the robot soldiers followed a human cook into battle. The war was not over yet. But now, the aliens were the ones who were afraid. Yuna could not stop thinking about the old cook. She sat in the medical bay, surrounded by bandages and medicine bottles, but her mind was far away. She kept seeing his eyes. Those empty, calm eyes that had looked at the robot commander without any fear. She opened her computer and searched the military database. It took her 20 minutes to find the file. It was old and marked as classified, but Yuna had high clearance because of her medical position. The file opened on her screen. Commander, Taiho Park, born on Earth, Korea Province, in the year 2187. Joined the military at age 18. Showed unusual ability in combat training. Promoted quickly through the ranks. There was a photograph. The man in the photograph was young, maybe 30 years old. His hair was black. His face was smooth. But the eyes were the same. Those cold, empty eyes that seemed to look through everything. Yuna read on. During the First Outer Colony War, Commander Park led a team of 12 soldiers against an enemy base of 300. All enemies were killed. All 12 soldiers survived. During the Second Outer Colony War, Commander Park was captured by the enemy. He escaped alone after 6 days. The enemy base was found destroyed. All 200 soldiers inside were dead. Commander Park had killed them with weapons taken from the guards. During the Third War, the enemy coalition sent their 5 best assassins to kill Commander Park. All 5 were found dead in their own ship. Commander Park had entered the ship alone, killed them all, and left before anyone noticed. Yuna's hands were shaking as she scrolled down. Total confirmed. Kills. 1,247 enemies in direct combat. Estimated additional kills. Unknown. Possibly thousands more. Nicknames. The Ghost of Earth. The Silent Death. The Human Weapon. At the end of the Third War, Commander Park asked to be released from military service. His request was approved. He disappeared from all records shortly after. Final note. If Commander Taiho Park is ever found, do not approach. Do not threaten. Do not attempt to force him to return to service. He is the single most dangerous human being in recorded history. Treat with extreme caution. Yuna closed the file. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. The most dangerous human being in recorded history was making soup in the kitchen below her feet. She stood up and ran. The kitchen was warm and full of good smells. Taiho was standing at his stove, stirring a large pot. Mina and Junho worked beside him, cutting vegetables and washing dishes. Everything seemed peaceful, normal. Yuna walked up to Taiho. He did not turn around. I know who you are, she said quietly. I found your file. Commander Taiho Park, the Ghost of Earth. Taiho kept stirring. I told you, he said. I am just a cook. I saw your record. Over 1,000 confirmed kills. You ended 3 wars. You were the most feared soldier in human history. That was another man. He died long ago. But you're the same person. Taiho stopped stirring. He turned to look at Yuna. His eyes were sad, like the eyes of a man who had seen too much pain. No, he said softly. I am not. The man in that file was a killer. He did terrible things in the name of duty. He was a weapon, not a person. When the wars ended, he looked at his hands and saw only blood. He could not live with what he had done. What happened to him? Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It was the same photograph from his room. The woman with the beautiful smile. The little boy holding her hand. He met a woman, Taiho said. Her name was Jisoo. She was a nurse at a hospital where he was recovering from his wounds. She was kind. She was gentle. She did not care about his past. She only saw the man in front of her. He touched the photograph gently. They got married. They had a son named Doan. For 5 years, Commander Taiho Park was not a soldier. He was a husband, a father. He learned to cook because his wife loved good food. He learned to smile because his son loved to laugh. He was happy. What happened to them? Taiho's eyes closed. Pain crossed his face like a shadow. There were enemies left over from the wars. People who wanted revenge. They could not find Commander Park, so they found his family instead. His voice became very quiet. I was not there to protect them. I was meeting with old military friends. When I came home, the house was burning. Jisoo and Dohan were gone. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry. After that, Commander Park wanted to die. But he had made a promise to his wife. On their wedding day, she made him promise that he would never kill again. She hated violence. She wanted him to be peaceful. He opened his eyes and looked at Yuna. I could not break that promise, even after she was gone. So Commander Park died, and Taiho the cook was born. I have spent 15 years keeping that promise. 15 years of cooking food and smiling and pretending to be harmless. But the aliens are coming, Yuna said. They will kill everyone on this ship. 3,000 people. Men, women, children. They will all die. I know. You could save them. You could fight. Taiho shook his head slowly. If I fight, I break my promise. If I break my promise, I dishonor my wife's memory. That is worse than death to me. But what about all the people who will die? Don't they matter? Taiho did not answer. He turned back to his stove and began to stir again. The ship shook suddenly. The alarm started screaming again. Red lights flashed everywhere. Captain Yumbi's voice came through the speakers. All hands, prepare for combat. The enemy has arrived early. They are boarding the ship. I repeat, they are boarding the ship. Screams echoed through the hallways. The sound of gunfire. The sound of explosions. The sound of people dying. Mina grabbed Yuna's arm. We have to hide. No, Taiho said. His voice was different now. Harder. You need to go to the safe room on level 3. Take Junho with you. Protect the children there. What about you, Chef? Taiho did not answer. He was looking at the door to the kitchen. His body had changed. He no longer looked like a tired old man. He looked like something else. Something dangerous. The door exploded inward. A creature came through. It was tall and thin, covered in gray armor like insect shell. It had 4 arms and a head with many eyes. In its hands, it held a weapon that glowed with purple light. A Virith warrior. The alien looked around the kitchen. Its many eyes found Taiho. Human, it said in a clicking voice. You will die. Your species will die. Your worlds will burn. It raised its weapon. Taeho looked at the alien. Then he looked at Mina and Junho, frozen with fear behind him. He looked at Yuna, her eyes full of hope and terror. He thought about his wife. He thought about his promise. Then he thought about the children in the safe room on level 3. Little boys and girls who had never done anything wrong, who would die screaming if he did nothing. His wife had been kind. His wife had loved children. His wife would never have wanted them to die just to keep an old promise. Taiho smiled. It was not the gentle smile of a cook. It was the cold smile of a predator. I'm sorry, Jisoo, he whispered. Forgive me. He moved. The alien did not even see him. One moment, the human was standing by the stove. The next moment, he was behind the alien, his cooking knife in his hand. The knife went through the gap in the alien's armor, straight into its brain. The Virith warrior fell. Taiho stood over the body. His hands were covered in blue blood. His eyes had changed. They were no longer sad. They were no longer empty. They were the eyes of a ghost. They were the eyes of death. Mina screamed. Junho fell to his knees. Yuna just stared. Taeho removed his apron and dropped it on the floor. He picked up the alien's weapon and tested its weight. Go to the safe room, he said. His voice was cold now. flat, like metal. Protect the children. I will handle the rest, Chef. Mina whispered. Taeho looked at her. For just a moment, warmth returned to his eyes. Thank you for working hard, he said. You made me happy. All of you. You made me feel like a normal person. Then the warmth was gone. The ghost of Earth walked out of the kitchen, leaving bloody footprints on the floor. The war had begun, and death was hungry. The alarm started at 3 in the morning. It was a terrible sound, loud and sharp, like a screaming animal. Red lights flashed in every hallway. People woke up from their sleep, confused and afraid. Taeho was already awake. He had been unable to sleep that night. Something had felt wrong, like a cold wind blowing through his bones. He had learned long ago to trust that feeling. He put on his clothes quickly and walked to the mess hall. The hallways were full of running people. Some were crying. Some were shouting. Nobody knew what was happening. In the mess hall, Taeho found Mina and Junho already there. Their faces were pale with fear. Chef, Mina said, her voice shaking. What is happening? Why is the alarm going off? I do not know yet, Taeho said calmly. But we should prepare food and water. People will need to eat, whatever happens. That is our job. He began to work, his hands moving with the speed of long practice. He heated soup. He prepared rice. He filled containers with clean water. Mina and Junho watched him for a moment, then they began to help. The ship's speakers crackled to life. Captain Yumbi's voice filled the air. She was a strong woman, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her voice was steady, but Taeho could hear the fear underneath. Attention all crew and passengers. This is Captain Yumbi speaking. We have detected an alien fleet approaching our position. There are 12 ships. They have not responded to our messages. All military personnel, report to the command center immediately. All civilians, please stay calm and remain in your quarters. The mess hall became very quiet. Mina dropped a spoon. It made a loud sound when it hit the floor. Aliens, Junho whispered. Real aliens. Are they going to attack us? Taeho did not answer. He continued cooking. 10 minutes later, the robot soldiers marched through the mess hall. Their metal feet made the floor shake. Their red eyes glowed brighter than usual. Unit 7 stopped in front of Taeho. The large robot looked down at the cook with what might have been a smile on its metal face. Still cooking. Grease monkey? Unit 7 said. There is a battle coming. Real warriors are going to fight. What will you do? Hide in your kitchen and cry? The other robots laughed their cold mechanical laugh. Taeho looked up at the robot. I will make sure the soldiers have food after the battle, he said quietly. Fighting makes people hungry. Unit 7 leaned closer. Its red eyes burned like fire. You know nothing about fighting. You know nothing about war. You are just a weak, useless human who plays with pots and pans. When the aliens come, you will die screaming like all the other weak ones. The robot turned and walked away. The other machines followed. Their laughter echoed in the empty hall. Mina was shaking with anger. How can you just stand there? She demanded. Why don't you say something back to them? Taeho smiled gently. What would I say? They believe what they believe. Words will not change their minds. Only action can do that. What action? You're a cook. Taeho's smile did not change, but something in his eyes made Mina step back. It was only there for a second. A coldness. A darkness. Like looking into deep water and seeing something large moving underneath. Yes, Taeho said. I am a cook. He turned back to his stove. An hour later, Taeho walked to the command center. He carried a tray of hot tea and small cakes. The guards at the door looked at him strangely. but they let him pass. Everyone knew the old cook. Everyone thought he was harmless. The command center was a large room full of screens and computers. Captain Yumbi stood in the middle, surrounded by her officers. The robot commander, a unit called Kappa, stood beside her. Kappa was the largest robot on the ship, with 4 arms and a head shaped like a helmet. On the main screen, Taiho could see the alien ships. They were ugly things, made of dark metal and covered with strange symbols. They looked like insects, with many legs and sharp points. They are called the Verith, Captain Yumbi was saying. They attacked a colony near here 6 months ago. There were no survivors. We should attack first, Kappa said in its deep, mechanical voice. Destroy them before they destroy us. We cannot, Yumbi replied. Our weapons are not strong enough. We have only 50 robot soldiers and 200 human crew. They have 12 ships full of warriors. Then we run. Their ships are faster than ours. They will catch us in 4 hours. The room was silent. Everyone knew what this meant. They could not fight. They could not run. They could only wait to die. Taiho walked forward and placed a tray of tea on a table. Captain Yumbi looked at him with tired eyes. Thank you, Taiho, she said. You always know when people need comfort. It is my job, Captain. Kappa turned its head to look at the cook. Its red eyes scanned Taiho from head to toe. Why is this human here? Kappa demanded. This is a military meeting. We are discussing how to fight. He's just a cook. He has no place among warriors. Taiho has been on this ship for 5 years, Yumbi said. He's part of the family. Family? Kappa made a sound of disgust. Weak human concepts. This man is useless in battle. He should go back to his kitchen and stay there until we are all dead. Taiho bowed his head. As you say, he said softly, I'm just a cook. He turned to leave, but a young woman blocked his path. She wore the white uniform of a ship's medic. Her name tag said Yuna. She had a round face and bright eyes that seemed to notice everything. Wait, Yuna said. She was looking at Taiho strangely. I know you. I've seen your face before. Taiho's expression did not change. I work in the kitchen. You have probably seen me serving food. No, that's not it. Yuna frowned. I studied military history in school. There was a face in one of my textbooks. A famous soldier from the Earth Wars. He looked exactly like you. The same eyes. The same way of standing. The room became quiet. Everyone was looking at Taiho now. The old cook smiled gently. I am afraid you are mistaken, young lady. I have always been a cook. I do not know anything about war. But Yuna did not look convinced. She stared at Taiho with those bright, sharp eyes. She saw the way he held himself. She saw the way his eyes moved around the room, noting every exit, every weapon, every person. That was not how a cook stood. That was how a soldier stood. The man in my textbook was called the Ghost of Earth, Yuna said slowly. Commander Taiho Park. They say he ended 3 wars by himself. They say he killed 1,000 enemies with his bare hands. They say he was the most dangerous human who ever lived. Silence. Then Kappa laughed. The robot's mechanical voice filled the room. This old man? The Ghost of Earth? That is ridiculous. Look at him. He is weak. He is soft. He smells like cooking oil. He could not kill a fly. The other robots laughed too, but Captain Umbi was not laughing. She was looking at Taiho with new eyes. She remembered something. A file she had read years ago. A soldier who had disappeared after the wars. A soldier who had asked to be forgotten. A soldier named Taiho Park. Chef, she said quietly. Is it true? Taiho looked at her. His face was calm. His eyes were empty. I am just a cook, Captain, he said. Please, excuse me. I have dinner to prepare." He walked out of the room. His footsteps were soft on the metal floor. The door closed behind him. Yun watched him go. Her heart was beating fast. She knew she was right. She had studied that face for hours in school. The ghost of Earth, the man who had ended wars, he was here. He was alive. He was cooking soup in the kitchen below. And they were all about to die. Unless the cook decided to become a warrior again. The colony ship Horizon moved slowly through the dark space between stars. It was a massive ship, almost 2 kilometers long, carrying 3,000 humans to a new world far from Earth. The journey would take 5 years, and they had already traveled for 2. Deep inside the ship, in the lower levels, where the air smelled of cooking oil and spices, a man named Taiho stood in front of a large stove. He was not tall. He was not young. His hair was turning gray at the sides, and his face had many small lines around the eyes. He wore a simple white apron that was stained with sauce and grease. Taiho was the head chef of the Horizon. Every day, he woke up at 4 in the morning. Every day, he prepared breakfast for hundreds of people. Every day, he smiled and served food to anyone who came to his kitchen. The kitchen was his world now. He knew every pot, every pan, every knife. He knew which burner was too hot and which one needed to be fixed. He knew the names of all the people who worked under him. There was Mina, the young woman who made the bread. There was Junho, the quiet boy who washed the dishes. There was old Suni, who had been cooking on ships for 40 years. Taiho treated them all with kindness. He never raised his voice. He never complained. When something went wrong, he fixed it himself. When someone made a mistake, he taught them the right way without anger. But there were others on the ship who did not see Taiho as someone worthy of respect. The robot soldiers. The Horizon carried 50 robot soldiers for protection. They were tall machines made of dark metal and glowing circuits. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but they were faster and stronger. Their eyes were red lights that never blinked. Their voices were cold and without feeling. The robots were made by the military to protect human ships from pirates and alien attacks. They were programmed to fight to kill, to follow orders. They did not understand things like cooking or kindness. They only understood power. And in their metal minds, Taiho had no power at all. Every day, the robots came to the mess hall to get their fuel. They did not eat food like humans. They drank a special liquid that powered their systems. Taiho had their fuel ready, stored in clean containers on a separate table. But every day, the robots found a reason to mock him. "Look at the grease monkey," said Unit 7 one morning. It was a large robot with a scratch across its chest plate. "He spends his life making food for weak human bodies. What a waste of existence." The other robots made sounds that might have been laughter. Their red eyes looked at Taiho with something like disgust. Taiho just smiled. He placed the fuel containers on the table and bowed his head slightly. "Good morning," he said. "I hope your systems are working well today." Unit 7 picked up its fuel container. "You hope?" it said. "A human hopes for things because humans are weak. We do not hope. We know. We are strong. You are nothing." Taiho nodded. "Yes," he said. "I'm just a cook." The robots left, their heavy feet making loud sounds on the metal floor. Taiho watched them go. His face showed nothing. His eyes showed nothing. He simply turned back to his stove and continued cooking. Mina came to stand beside him. She was only 22 years old, with short black hair and worried eyes. "Chef Taiho," she said quietly, "why do you let them talk to you like that? It's not right." Taiho stirred a pot of soup. The smell of vegetables and meat filled the air. "They are just machines, Mina. They do not understand what they say. There is no need to be angry at them. But they call you terrible names every day. They treat you like you are less than human. Taiho looked at her. For just a moment, something moved behind his eyes. Something old. Something cold. But it was gone so fast that Mina thought she had imagined it. "Names cannot hurt me," Taiho said gently. "Words are just sounds. What matters is the work we do. What matters is that people eat well and feel happy. That is enough for me." Double quotes Mina did not understand. But she respected her chef too much to argue. She went back to making bread, her hands moving through the soft dough. The day continued like all the days before it. Taiho cooked breakfast. He cooked lunch. He cooked dinner. He smiled at the humans who thanked him for the food. He ignored the robots who mocked him. In the evening, when the kitchen was clean and the staff had gone to sleep, Taiho sat alone in the dark mess hall. He held a cup of tea in his hands. The tea was hot, and the steam rose up like tiny ghosts. He looked at his hands. They were the hands of a cook now. They were rough from hot water and covered with small burns. They smelled of onions and garlic. But once, long ago, those hands had been different. Once, those hands had held weapons instead of cooking spoons. Once, those hands had ended lives instead of feeding them. Once, the name Taiho Park had made generals afraid and enemies run away. That was many years ago. That was a different man. That man had died, and in his place, a cook had been born. Taiho finished his tea and stood up slowly. His knees hurt a little. His back was stiff. He was getting old. Good, he thought. Old cooks are peaceful. Old cooks do not fight. Old cooks just make food and smile and wait for death to come gently. He walked to his small room near the kitchen. It was a simple room with a bed, a desk, and a photograph. The photograph showed a woman with a beautiful smile and a little boy holding her hand. Taiho looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he closed his eyes and whispered something too quiet to hear. He went to bed. Tomorrow, he would wake up at 4 in the morning. Tomorrow, he would cook breakfast. Tomorrow, the robots would mock him again. And tomorrow, like today, he would smile and say nothing, because Taiho Park had made a promise. He had promised the woman in the photograph that he would never fight again. He had promised to be peaceful. He had promised to let the warrior die and let the cook live. It was a promise he had kept for 15 years. He did not know that soon, very soon, the universe would ask him to break that promise. He did not know that the mocking robots would learn to fear the humble cook, but that was still in the future. For now, Taiho slept, and his dreams were filled with the smell of cooking food and the sound of gentle rain on a kitchen roof. The stars moved slowly past the ship's windows. The horizon continued its long journey through the dark. And somewhere in the black distance, something terrible was coming. Something that would wake the warrior from his sleep.